Hello, my friends. Our topic is the astrology of anorexia and bulimia. As you probably know, anorexia is a condition where the person maintains a body weight way below normal. Bulimia is another kind of eating disorder where the person overindulges and then purges. So two eating disorders. We have researched this thoroughly and we have some very solid ideas on what is in the birth charts of people who have anorexia or bulimia. So this research started out with 3 overall goals. Goal number 1, build an astrological model. In other words, what is it? Is it Moon in Pisces, Moon square Saturn? Is there anything? Could there possibly be something? Build a model for anorexia and bulimia that is conceptually simple. Well, I'll show you. When I show you the formula, this astro signature, you'll see what I mean by conceptually simple, theoretically reasonable, and has a low p-value. These are 3 criteria for a good formula, for something to look compelling, to look like it could hold up under additional research. We'll go through each of these 3 things and see how they operate. And second thing that I've done, that I added to this research, the original research was done by astrology researcher Michele Love. She's the one who made these discoveries. I'm making this video because I took it to another level by adding another phase to the research and introducing some new research tools. Very exciting. So we are improving our research methods, our tools, and our ability to make discoveries. I'm going to show you how we start using that with the eating disorders data. And lastly, we want to confirm the formula with new data. So there's basically 2 things. You build a model, you test it. We have not yet collected the data to confirm the model. Only the first 2 of these 3 goals have been accomplished. Keep in mind that what we're describing here is radically different from almost anything else you see in astrology. Astrology normally is the personal experience of people. They'll say, oh, I've had these clients, I looked at 30 charts of people and a lot of them had Moon in Leo, or whatever, Moon in Virgo, whatever it might be. There's always going to be some sign or house position that's more than others. Just by random fluctuation, this always happens. So they give this very flimsy evidence from a modern research methods point of view and share their personal experience, things that feel right to them, that make sense. There's not really any solid evidence. Here we're using modern research tools. We control for selection bias. All these modern things that are done at universities and research institutes, we're doing here, building models and testing them. Very different from other things in astrology. Now, except for this very small group of people who are into this new evidence-based astrology movement. Okay, now, I'm going to have 3 videos. It's going to be a series of 3 videos. This video here, I'm going to tell you what the formula is. What is in the charts of people with bulimia and anorexia. We'll look at the chart of someone who has had these eating disorders, anorexia in this particular case, and or maybe she had bulimia as well. I don't remember. Anyway, we have an example. We'll see what it looks like, what's in the charts, and what the overall evidence is. Next video in the series, in part 2, I'm going to show you how I use logistic regression. That might sound intimidating or something if you're not used to research methods, but I'm going to show how we're using logistic regression to improve our understanding, get a better insights into what's going on astrologically with bulimia and anorexia, and how we can use logistic regression in the future to help in discovering a model that works. It's going to speed up our research tremendously. And the third video is going to be on commercial software and some new free software. This is new, developed in the process of making this logistic regression, and the new free software is open source, and I'll show that to you. So the third video in the series is for those who want to do research. If you want to make discoveries in astrology, that's what the third video is. If you just want to know what's in the charts of people that have bulimia and anorexia, you just need this first video in the series. If you want to see some more details of what's in the charts and some of the new research tools, you can watch part 2. And part 3, if you actually are interested in how the research is conducted, going into the details of how that's done. Okay, let's jump into it. What is in the charts of people with anorexia and bulimia? So this is a discovery by Michele Love. She is a board member of the Cosmobiology Institute. Cosmobiology Institute website is cosmobiology.org. She's an astrologer, obviously a researcher as well. She's also an intuitive medium, so that sometimes surprises people, like, whoa, that sounds kind of woo-woo, and now you're talking about modern research methods. Well, just like somebody could be a Christian or a Hindu or a Muslim and be a theoretical physicist, that happens sometimes. Or someone could be a painter and also a theoretical physicist or a mathematician. These things are not mutually exclusive, and often people that get into things like astrology research, they're searching outside the box, and so there's often a receptivity to other possibilities, you might say. Okay, here's the formula that Michele came up with, that she discovered. That's the whole formula right there. It's in 2 parts. I've got 2 lines here and then 2 lines here. Let's look at the first 2 lines. They are 23 vibration. 23 vibration inclines to eating disorders. Okay. Specifically, the moon with Pluto or Vesta. So moon with Pluto, and there's moon aspecting Pluto or moon aspecting Vesta in 23 vibe. More specifically, 23 times 2, 23 times 3, 23 times 4. In vibrational astrology, which is the theoretical framework for this research, our understanding is that when you multiply a vibration, particularly a prime number, when you multiply that prime number times any multiple of 2 or 3, so 4 is 2 times 2, these higher vibrations are extremely similar to the fundamental vibration. So 23 times 2, in other words 46, 23 times 3, which is 69, and 23 times 4, which is 92, these 4 vibrations should have a similar effect, according to our theory and our discoveries from other research. So this is very consistent with astrological theory. It's what we expect to happen, and we're using the same exact vibrations for both planetary pairs, Moon Pluto, Moon Vesta. The simplicity and consistency of the formula is, when we go back to the previous slide, we said that we want a formula that is conceptually simple. So this is conceptually simple in the sense that I have Moon with Pluto, Moon with Vesta in the same exact vibrations. Very simple. We're not skipping numbers, just times 1, 2, 3, 4. Very simple, very straightforward. Now you may say it's not conceptually simple because 23 vibration may sound odd to you if you're an astrologer. That's not what we mean by conceptually simple. That has to do with theory. And we want it to be theoretically reasonable according to the theoretical framework that we're using, vibrational astrology, not modern Western, not Vedic, according to the theoretical framework, vibrational astrology. This is very reasonable. So you work from a theoretical framework. If you're a Vedic astrologer or modern Western astrologer, this perhaps doesn't make sense to you. That's fine. That's your theoretical framework. You work within a theoretical framework. Within this framework, this is both conceptually simple. I've just got Moon with 2 planets in the same multiples of vibrations. And it is theoretically reasonable in that there's a reason why 23 might be involved, which I'll discuss in this video. And we're using a series of vibrations that we typically would put together. The other half of this formula is hard aspects, 8 times 1, 2, 3, and 4. Very similar to the first half, where we're multiplying by 1, 2, 3, and 4. Instead of by 23, it's by 8, and it's 2 different planets, Mercury or Mars, with Pluto. So this is fairly simple, fairly elegant formula. You can always think of ways to make it more elegant or more, simpler, but this is good. And we use the same orbs, we use the same weighting of every aspect is given equal weight. It doesn't matter whether Moon and Pluto are in 92 vibration or 23 vibration. You might think, well, 92 should be weaker, it's less fundamental. No, we just gave them all exactly the same weight. They're all equally important. So it's simple. The simpler, the better in terms of having a formula, because if you have a lot of arbitrary things, it leads to what we call overfitting. So this is the formula. Now we'll talk about the theory, like why this makes sense, in a moment. Okay, so it's conceptually simple. We have 2 different vibrations, 23 and 8, multiplied by 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have Moon to other planets, and we have Pluto to 2 other planets. Same orbs for everything. It's theoretically reasonable, which I'll go into what 23 vibe means, what 8 vibe means, and why this makes sense. And the p-values, discuss this on the next slide. P-values means the probability that this could happen by chance. We want it to be less than 1 in 1,000, and we did achieve that. So the formula meets our 3 criteria. It is conceptually simple. Is it theoretically reasonable? Well, I've made a series of videos on Vesta, where we did extreme case sampling research on Vesta, and I'm going to quote from part 1 of this 5-part series at 7 minutes and 30 seconds into that video. This is what I have on the slide. Excuse me. Meaning of Vesta: burning, eradicating, destroying, avoiding or protecting oneself from all that is infected, distorted, and impure from our personal lives, both physically and psychologically. Well, with anorexia in particular, if you Google anorexia, read about it, one of the common things is a distorted body image. They think that they're heavy, they're skinny, they're like not eating, they're exercising like crazy. There's something distorted. They feel like it's distorted. It's impure. It's not pretty. And they destroy it. They eradicate it. They burn it out of their systems. Vesta can be severe, and the behavior of anorexics and bulimics is severe. Vesta can kill, but Vesta can also heal by removing impurities and any hate, ugliness, or imperfection. So there's what seems to be going on with a lot of people with these eating disorders, not all of them, but enough that it shows up as being common, is this sense of something being ugly and impure and needing to burn it out of their systems. Here's a quote from Mayo Clinic website. People who have anorexia often have a strong fear of gaining weight and may think they're overweight even when they are thin. Okay, and why the moon would be involved in 23 vibration? Well, the moon is the past reflected into the present, according to vibrational astrology. And one way that the past gets reflected into the present is through our moods, our habits, and supposedly being overweight, the condition of your body, is the accumulation of your past behavior. You cannot quickly change your body. I mean, if you want to lose 10 pounds or gain 10 pounds, it could take weeks, months, years. You can't just snap your fingers and do it. It's an accumulation of all of your habits throughout your life. It's very lunar, very much what you've built over time. And Pluto is obsessive and compulsive, and Vesta is purifying. it makes sense. Now, why 23 vibe? What does 23 vibe do? It has to do with taking calculated risks, a bit of a gamble. 23 likes to see, what are my options? And they often go for something not completely common. It's like like I say, a calculated risk. This is what 23 is about. 23 is about that at any moment of our lives we have choices. If, should I go shopping for things I need? Should I study for this exam that I have? Should I be working longer hours? What am I going to do right now with my time? Maybe I need to relax, watch a movie. We all have choices. Every moment we have chosen something and put ourselves into something, and we come to moments where we just have an open decision. Should I take this road or that road? 23 vibe is about the existential reality that we are creating our lives by our decisions. And what's going on with anorexia and bulimia is that if you have emotional trauma, you have fears, worries, concerns, we all do. If you have serious ones, how do you deal with it? Do you go to a therapist? Do you just ignore it? This choice of being anorexic or bulimic is a kind of thing that 23 vibe does. It goes a little out of the box, a little extreme, a little risky. It's a particular path chosen that's not the safe and easy path. It's a bit of a risky path, a bit of an intense path that could potentially produce very strong positive results, at least in the mind of the person. So the 23 vibe inclines to choices that are a little risky, a little more intense, a little more out of the box than the usual decision. So if I'm having some lack of confidence or feeling bad because of the experiences I've had, to choose this particular path is not the most common, safe, and typical things people would do. You have Pluto and Vesta involved, trying to be compulsive, and so perfectionist is what Vesta inclines to. It goes into this kind of choice. So it's the 23 vibe has to do with this particular choice for dealing with the problems. And then the 8 vibe is about Pluto, being obsessive, compulsive, compulsively thinking, Mercury, Pluto, pushing a particular idea, Mars, Pluto, pushing hard, the effort involved to not eat, to exercise, to hide, or bulimia, to hide this problem and be so intensely involved with it. So it's the intensity of the fixation, the obsession with the idea, keeping it often secret, and compulsive, intense obsession with it is one aspect of what's in the charts, and the other is this particular way of dealing with it that's intense and a little different from what most people do to deal with their emotional stresses, traumas, problems. So it's at least theoretically reasonable. Our idea is that it's reasonable, not that it's convincing, but that it's not impossible. It's at least reasonable that this could happen. So we have something that's conceptually simple, theoretically reasonable, and does it have a p-value less than 0.001? We make what's called a shuffled control group. I describe what a shuffled control group is in other videos, which is what we call conservative control group, a very excellent control group. We compare the people we have. We have only 74 cases of anorexia and bulimia that from the Astro Databank data that's included in the series Astrology software. That's not a lot for statistical purposes. That's why we did not separate it out into one anorexic and bulimic separate. we would love to do that, but then you're going to have one with maybe only 20 people, the other with about 50, or something like that, or 30 and 40. It's just not enough to build a model. Even 74 is not as many as we would like. So in research, you have to just compromise. You have to just deal with what you have. So given what we have, it made sense for us to combine these two eating disorders together. And when we ran the t-test in the Sirius software, the two-tailed t-test, we got a p-value significant at the 0.001 level. For those of you who are technically oriented, there's the t-value, other details about the results, what the average score is, the standard deviation. So if you're into research, you might find that interesting. When we look up the p-value for the the DF, degrees of freedom, is 146 and the t-value is 3.44. I put that into a calculator at this website and it tells me that the p is 0.0008, just a little bit under the 0.001 that we need, so it meets that criterion as well. Look at the difference in average scores. The people with eating disorders, the 74 people who have eating disorders, they got an average score of, rounded off, 32. The control group had only 17.5. You need a huge difference in scores when you have only 74 cases in your experimental group and 74 in the control group. So huge difference, not too far from being double, twice as strong. So, okay, so that's the formula, that's the results that show that this is potentially an actual formula. Do we know? Are we almost 100% certain that this formula works? No, but it is reasonable. It's a model built with the data that meets our criteria. This is how real research at an academic level is done. Step by step, stone by stone, building the model, testing it. This is completely different from what's normally done in astrology. No attempt made at all to employ modern research methods with all of the controls and the care and the detail. That's what we're doing. And as with any research, do they get a cure for cancer the first time? No, they've been working on it for decades. Step by step, stone by stone, we've built a model that meets our criteria. So it's very promising. If you're interested in consulting someone and you using astrology and they have an eating disorder, you do not want to use the ideas that people talk about. They're not confirmed, they're not verified. They're nothing. It's just people's personal experience and beliefs. Here, it's data driven. So we still don't have enough confidence to say we should go out and just start telling people if they're likely to be bulimic and anorexic. No, we're just starting the initial stages of building a modern evidence-based form of astrology. And what you can do right now is if you have a client with anorexia or bulimia, you can see if they have these planetary configurations, and then you can ask questions related to them. That doesn't hurt to just ask questions to get an idea of what to possibly look for. You don't want to diagnose, but you could get hints of what to look at. And that can speed things up tremendously, because then you can say to the client, I've noticed that you said this, this, and this. Your perfectionism, etc. Moon, Vesta, if that's involved. Or if it's the Mercury, Pluto, and Mars, Pluto. Your obsessive thoughts about this. It steers you into what could be going on. In actual practice, like with our bipolar disorder research, which was confirmed with what we call a strict hypothesis test. It's unbelievable. You sit down with somebody and you can target what's going on. So the application of the ideas with clients is an important part of an evidence-based practice. The stage we're at here, we're just building the model. It looks hopeful, it looks solid. enough hints that you could check it out with clients to see if it's helping you discover the dynamics of what's going on. But do not diagnose and tell people what, that they're prone to whatever. It involves a lot more than the astrology chart. Anyway, it's a combination of things. You need someone properly trained. Now, but we are doing something never done before in a history period. We are building a data-driven astrology, supported by data. And the third step I mentioned would be to collect new data, confirm it. Then if that gets confirmed, then we start building high levels of confidence where these things can be approved for use in practice. We're not quite there yet with these eating disorders, but we're on our way. We're on the way there, far, far beyond anything else you'll find in astrology, which is, again, just anecdotal evidence and personal beliefs and traditions. Now, let's look at a chart to see what it looks like. What does it look like to have these configurations that we now have some evidence do incline to anorexia and bulimia? We're going to look at the chart of one of the 74 people whose name, I hope I'm saying her first name correctly, Troyan. I hope I didn't ruin that. Belisario. She is an actress, and this is the information produced by the Sirius software when we put in the formula, and it tells us that she has a moon Vesta in 23 harmonic, or vibration is another word for harmonic. The orb is 1 degree 16 minutes in the 23 vibration chart, and she has Mars and Pluto in 32 vibration with almost a 9 degree orb, and gets this many points. The smaller the orb, the more points you get. This one in 23 vibe is almost exact. It's only a 1 degree orb, and the maximum number of points is 50. We just gave 50 points to everything, so it's up close to being 50. So she gets a total of 68.09 points. As her score for her tendency to become bulimic and anorexic. Of course, extremely important would be her life experiences. Now, a little technical note for those of you who are very nerdy, otherwise don't worry about this too much. But this score of 68.09 is 1.3 standard deviations above the mean. That puts her percentile score at 90th percentile, which means only about 10% of the people with anorexia and bulimia in this study have a higher score. So this is a high score, just to let you know. She's at 90%. Why did I choose her chart? I wanted a chart that had at least 2 of the 4 possible factors. There's only 4 possible things that you can have. If we go back to our formula up here, you can have Moon Pluto in 23 times 2 times 3 times 4. You can't have more than one of these. So you can have the Moon Pluto, the Moon Vesta, the Mercury Pluto, the Mars Pluto. There's 4 possible things that can happen. So not many people are going to have 2 of those. She is one, and I wanted to just show, just for illustrating the concepts, I wanted to show 2 different aspects and what they look like from the viewpoint of an astrologer looking at the chart wheels. Okay, so let's look at her charts. We call up the 8th harmonic chart and the 23rd harmonic chart. You can do that in almost any astrology software. In vibrational astrology, we use the word vibration instead of harmonic. It's the same thing. You can call it 8th harmonic chart or 8th vibration chart. So here's her birth chart. And then I'm going to show you her 8th harmonic chart and then her 23rd harmonic chart. And just as a reminder, here are the 4 things. We can't really see these very well in the birth chart. But notice something interesting. She has Moon opposition Pluto in the birth chart with a 15-minute orb, extremely strong. And very interestingly, Moon Pluto is a planetary pair that we're interested in, but not in a basic aspect. So in my notes here, I have Moon opposition Pluto in the natal chart with a 15-minute orb. Might look like an indicator of an eating disorder. It's very similar to what we're saying, Moon Pluto, Moon Vesta. but it's not exactly what we said we would find. We said it would be in 23 vibration. So it is easy, reading from what I have here on the slide, it is easy to bend the rules to fit what we want to see. You know, as astrologers, we say, oh, there's that moon Pluto. Oh my God. Troyan Belisario has the signature. No, she doesn't. No. She does not have it. Here, we'll see it in the 8 vibration, 23 vibration. You cannot bend the rules. This is part of being a rigorous, modern, evidence-based practice. You're testing a set of rules carefully. You're not bending them. If we want to bend it, we have to put that into the formula, reevaluate it, produce the p-values again. You can't just willy-nilly just throw things in there and say that's evidence. You need to check it carefully. So I just want to point out that this is some of the differences between a rigorous evidence-based practice and what normally goes on in astrology. This Moon-Pluto opposition has the feeling similar to what we've described here, but it's not the same, and so it is not support. This fact she has Moon opposition Pluto, and that she was anorexic and or bulimic, is not supporting our theory. However, it is helpful to notice it because, as I have here on the slide, we might want to consider adding Moon-Pluto hard aspects to the astrosignature to see if it improves it. So this is useful for improving the astrosignature, but we have to put it in there, test it, and evaluate it. Right now, since we haven't done that yet, this has nothing to do, this Moon opposition Pluto has nothing to do with her tendency to bulimia and anorexia. If we rerun the formula and the p-value gets better when we add this Moon Pluto, then we can say that, but we haven't done that yet. Okay. But here is what's related to the bulimia and anorexia is Mars Pluto in 8 times 4 vibration, or in other words, 32 vibration. Oh, I've got the wrong number here. I put 8, 16, 32, 64. There's a typo. This should say 8, 16, 24, 32. Yikes. Okay, a little bit of a typo. This should say 8, 16, 24, 32. So 8 times 4 is 32. In the 8 vibration chart, it'll look like 8 times 4. It'll be a square, which is 1/4 of a circle. In the 8 vibration chart, if you're familiar with vibrational charts, you'll understand what I'm saying. But the point is, if we go to the 8 vibration chart and it says 8 times 4, it'll be a square, and there it is, Mars square Pluto. Has about a 2-degree orbit. So it's only the Mars square Pluto in this chart that fits the formula that we have and would say that yes, she is prone to bipolar disorder. However, when you look at this chart, notice there's a Sun, Saturn, Neptune, T-square almost exact. Mars is also square the Moon. There's the Moon and Pluto together. They are not included in this formula because they're really not 8 vibration. That's the opposition in the natal chart, which is so tight. It ends up being visible in the 8 vibration chart, but when we say 8 vibration in this research, we mean 8 vibration and does not reduce down. Okay, if you're not familiar with the technical details of harmonics and vibrational astrology, maybe you didn't quite follow all that, but the point is this. We have very clear rules, and all we have according to our rules is the Mars square Pluto. Again, just as with the natal chart, we're seeing things in her chart that we might want to add to the formula because theoretically they make sense. I mean, Saturn, opposition Moon, Pluto, and the Sun and Moon is with Sun and Pluto, and it's right in between them, making strong midpoint structure. There's a lot of things, a lot of Moon-Pluto type stuff that we're expecting, but in a slightly different way than we have it in our formula, because we have it in 23 vibe. So it's giving us ideas of additional things to look at. This is what happens when you apply the ideas. You'll see additional things that look relevant and that you can use to modify and improve the formula. Okay, looking at actual charts is a necessary part of any evidence-based practice. If you go to the American Psychological Association website, they describe their regulations and rules and requirements for evidence-based practice, and there's a requirement for research, database research, things like that, and applying those ideas to clients and seeing how it works out. So here we're looking at what it looks like with an actual person's chart. Now this is one of the people in the research project. Even more interesting is when you apply the ideas to new charts, to your clients. This is just somebody in the database. But we are getting additional ideas of things to look for. And this one's very interesting. The 23 vibe. Moon Vesta in 23 vibe, and look at that Moon Vesta. 1 degree orb in a vibrational chart is very small. This is what gives her a lot of points. When we looked at that, how many points she's gotten, she got 46 points, I think it was, for the Moon Vesta in 23 vibe, because it's so tight. And actually what's even more fascinating about this is that Pluto's opposition. There's a Moon Vesta Pluto in 23 vibe, and we're talking about Moon Pluto, Moon Vesta. However, according to the strict rules of our formula, we cannot include Pluto because it reduces down to a lower vibration. So my point is really this, is not to get lost in all those details, but is that we have a very strict formula, we don't bend it, but we use our observations very often to make improvements. Here's a wonderful improvement. What I think would likely be a wonderful improvement to our formula. Let's go, no, I have it right here. We could add to this Moon Pluto and Moon Vesta another aspect pattern of Moon Vesta Pluto in 23 vibe, where at least one of the aspects among the three does not reduce down, because that's what we have here. We have a Moon Vesta Pluto, where Moon Vesta are in 23, the Moon Pluto reduces down, so we can't include it, but if we use this rule of a 3-planet pattern, that would be included as well. That would raise the points even more for somebody that does have the problem, and it makes our model work better. And we could do the same thing to keep this consistent for Mercury, Pluto, and Mars, Pluto. We could say, if there's a Mercury, Mars, Pluto, all three in 8 vibe, or 8 times 2, or 8 times 3, or 8 times 4. And when we do that, only one of the 3 pairs of planets in that 3-planet combination needs to be not reduced down. These are standard ideas that we used in the bipolar disorder research, so much research. So by applying the ideas and looking at the actual charts, we see what it looks like, what it feels like. And what we're seeing is that there's even more in her chart than what the formula is telling us. And we could modify the formula based on what we're seeing and probably get better results. So I could do that. I could go back and add those. If you're curious, I'll do it and make another video, and we'll see if it improves it. Problem is we have only 74 cases. And when you start doing 3-planet patterns, they're very rare. So from a research methods viewpoint, it's inclined to what we call overfitting. We would want to do this if we had, say, 500 or 1,000 cases, not 74 cases. Then we could put in things that occur less frequently, and we'd have just more confidence in what we're doing, less variability in the data with a larger sample size. So we really need a larger sample size to explore those things, to do it properly. So that's it. In terms of what the formula is, in the next video in the series, I'm going to show you logistic regression and how it opens up huge doors, makes all of this work much, much better. I kind of feel like I should have started the logistic regression for situations like this a long time ago. It would have made a lot of our research a lot faster, smoother, and easier. But it all takes time. And so we're finally to that point. I had to write some software to make that all happen. And I'm going to show you that in part 3, what this software is. Open source, free. Well, it does build on a commercial program, but we're starting to build, additions to that commercial software that are free and open source. So it's exciting. This whole world of research is opening up. We have the Cosmobiology Institute going strong. So very exciting. So conclusions. The eating disorders astrosignature does meet the criteria we have for building a model. So we build a model with certain criteria. We were able to meet those criteria. It wasn't easy, by the way. The logistic regression might help in the future find it more quickly. But Michele Love spent endless hours sorting through the data to find this simple, consistent theme going on. Applying the ideas to charts of people with anorexia or bulimia brings to mind additional possible astrological variables that may be important. So that's another thing that we've noticed through this research. What we're seeing is this formula looks very promising, and we're also seeing potential ways to improve it. So we're off to a good start. Now keep this in mind. We're building this model. We spent hundreds, actually thousands of hours building this, now writing new software to analyze more carefully, to speed up the research, all this work. And some of the models will be confirmed in future research and some will not. Some can look at very, very promising. You click new data, nothing. Others, they're looking somewhat promising and boom, you click more new data and it works. The bipolar disorder was one of those research projects where it just went much more smoothly than I thought. We collect new data, confirm, confirm, confirm. I did research on athletic performance, like baseball batting performance, much slower than expected. That's why we do research. We're exploring, we're discovering. You don't know exactly what will happen. So based on the success we've had with other behavioral and emotional problems, like bipolar disorder, that also makes me more optimistic because it looks like the astrology works well for these kinds of things. As opposed to like financial forecasting. I've spent huge amounts of time, gotten almost nowhere. We did come up with a gold forecast. Very little progress. So certain areas are just going to work better than others. And it looks like these kinds of emotional and behavioral problems can be identified through the research. So in the next video in this series, we will see how another research tool, logistic regression, gives additional information, and we'll also see how it can be used to make discoveries in the future. And then in the third video, we will see, for those of you who actually want to do the research, what the software is, what the steps are to conduct the research. That's it, my friends. If you're a subscriber, thank you so much. That's tremendously helpful. We also have a membership where you can meet twice a month live online with me with any questions, any topics that you want to describe. Here's some information about how to become a member. If you would like to, it's $10 a month. If you want to meet and discuss and talk and ask questions. But all the videos are free. There's now over 750 of them. We're approaching 800 videos, all free, all available, no advertisements, to build this new world of evidence-based astrology. Thank you very much, my friends. And I will see at least some of you in part 2 in this series. God bless. Namaste.